Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. We begin with a startling video from the downtown east side. It shows Vancouver police taking down a man using a beanbag gun today. Bystanders in at least one community group argue it was excessive force, but the department says the man was a threat. A warning some people may find parts of this video upsetting.
You wanna shoot me? Shoot me.
Yo, what the f? Yo, what the f? Oh, he was putting his arms on the car!
The Vancouver area network of drug users posted this video online saying officers shot an unarmed man with his hands up and sicked a police dog on him. They say the man asked for medical help, but no ambulance arrived, and a witness told them he said, quote, "I need to breathe." Vancouver police claim the man is a high-risk and violent offender involved in the local drug trade and considered armed and dangerous. The VPD says officers were trying to arrest him for an unrelated crime earlier in the day when he got into a taxi, ordered the cabbie to drive, and allegedly threatened to kill him if he stopped. Police stopped the cab, the driver fled, and they say the suspect didn't obey their commands to lay down, instead challenging officers to shoot him. They claim he turned away from them and motioned back toward the rear of the taxi door before officers hit him with the beanbags. You can see what's happening there. The force says the bags had little effect as he's 6'3" and 300 pounds and say he kept resisting on the ground. Police say he was treated for injuries from dog bites and faces numerous charges. The VPD's use of beanbag guns has been under scrutiny after an August incident where an Indigenous man died after officers shot him numerous times. BC's police watchdog is now on this case, and tonight the VPD says the Independent Investigations Office has been notified of today's incident. Now to a week of violence in Coquitlam. It began with an armed robbery that injured bystanders, and last night 2 people were shot dead in a popular park. As Michelle Gassoub tells us, police are trying to reassure people who live nearby.
A scene of deadly violence still in view today at Dawes Hill Park. Police tape marking the spot where 2 were shot and killed. Around 7:45 last night, 3 people sitting inside a vehicle were shot. 2 of them died of their injuries. 1 person was taken to hospital.
There was probably about 6 shots, or what we thought were fireworks.
This neighbor was making dinner when the shots rang out. CBC is not identifying her for her protection. She and her husband rushed outside, witnessing suspects making a getaway.
We also saw a couple people fleeing across the park, which we informed the police officers about.
The integrated homicide investigation team today naming one of the victims, 25-year-old Raman Salam of Coquitlam, though no photo of Salam released at this time.
Of course, it's still preliminary, but we believe that he is associated to the Lower Mainland gang conflict.
Investigators still haven't been able to identify the other man who died, though because of Salam's connection to gangs, IHIT believes this shooting was targeted. Police also now investigating a burned vehicle found in the Guildford area of Surrey, though its connection to the double homicide hasn't yet been confirmed. Investigators also offering assurances to the public that there's no ongoing danger. The words little comfort to those who saw guns drawn in their own backyard last night.
There's toddlers and moms in this park all the time, and kids walking through to go to school. Busy street, obviously, and to be at 7:45, yeah, it's quite concerning.
The incident comes just a day after another violent incident in Coquitlam, an armed robbery that saw multiple members of the public injured. Police say the 2 incidents don't appear to be connected, but still a worrying few days for the people in the community. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Surrey.
3 people are missing after a float plane crashed into a remote area off BC's central coast. The RCMP says the Cessna crashed into Strachan Bay, about 50 kilometers north of Port Hardy yesterday. It was carrying 2 passengers and a pilot flying back to Port Hardy from a logging camp. The plane is presumed to have sunk. Marine and dive teams are working to find the plane pilot as well as the passengers, but the owner says the tracking devices do not work underwater. Vancouver police have released 15 more photos of suspects believed to have been involved in a riot at a music festival in September. About 1,000 people started rioting after the Breakout Festival's headliner, Lil Baby, announced he was too sick to perform at the Peony Amphitheatre. The crowd caused more than $300,000 in damage at the venue and surrounding neighborhood. Earlier this month, police released the photos of 10 other suspects, many of whom have now been arrested.
So no charges have been laid. We've identified people and released them pending more investigation that will occur. So this will take time. This will take months, sifting through video and other evidence.
Anyone who recognizes the people in the photos is asked to use the department's online submission form to contact police. Well, it's upsetting news for parents, guardians, and children. A West End preschool is suddenly closing. Another example of the struggle childcare providers face to keep doors open here on the Lower Mainland. As Christina Jung reports, it's forcing many parents to scramble.
For the past 2 decades, this community center has been filled with children's laughter and learning. But now Little Sprout Preschool is preparing to close permanently in December.
We are all shocked and unbelievable. How can a preschool close like this in such a short notice?
Denise Ting's 3-year-old son has been attending the school since September. Last week, she and other parents received a letter notifying them that the center will be closing next month.
I'm not too sure where Hendrix will be beginning in January. It also creates a sense of instability where he's formed a lot of friendships, he's bonded with his teachers.
The preschool says it has been looking for a second full-time early childhood educator for the last 2 years. They delayed opening for a month in January and again for a couple weeks in September. But with no luck in that job search, they're being forced to close permanently. Ting has started a petition to keep the program running at least until the end of the school year.
We strongly oppose of closing this preschool for the West End area because we only have just a few in the downtown Vancouver area.
Similar centers in East Vancouver and Central Okanagan are also feeling the staffing pinch.
We make ongoing decisions, pretty much weekly to make sure that we're going to be appropriately staffed.
The province says the staff shortage has been an issue for years, but the pandemic has made it much worse.
We're hearing that definitely childcare workers, professionals, early childhood educators definitely need a support. We have a workforce that's with 97% of women are being paid lower wages and not even comparable to other care economy workers.
Chen says in order to recruit and retain early childhood educators, more predictable and stable wages are needed. She says the province is working towards making the industry better for people coming into the workforce through bursary programs and a wage top-up, measures that won't help Ting in the short term.
It's frustrating for us, frustrating for parents, and for the kids too.
Leaving Ting desperately searching for a spot for her son. Christina Jung, CBC News, Vancouver.
The provincial government says it's moving ahead with expanded meal programs in BC schools. The Agriculture Ministry says it's planning to enlarge a program that currently sources local food for hospitals and post-secondary schools to give to kids in public elementary and high schools access to free food. Supporters say a universal program for all students can help lower stigma for those who have less.
We don't make school free for some students and make others pay for it. School is supposed to be the equalizing force in society where we want all students to be treated equally and have a common experience.
The ministry says it's preparing to unveil the expanded school meal program in the new year. Health workers at Surrey Memorial Hospital say a surge in young patients is straining an already exhausted system. And the worry comes after BC Children's Hospital activated its emergency triage to manage more patients with breathing problems. Surrey Memorial emergency doctor Randeep Gill says they're seeing up to 250 children a day, 100 more than last year. He says the emergency department was built to see 72 patients. Gill says ideally a family doctor or physician in a clinic would examine most of those kids, but many people don't have a family doctor, and parents don't want to use telemedicine to get a fever checked. The huge demands mean long waits, shifting staff from other departments, and sending patients elsewhere.
And so they will either go to New Westminster or they will either go to Vancouver. And so that extra burden of transferring those patients out and seeing patients deteriorating, because all of these life-saving interventions are time sensitive. Time is of the essence. So now if you're stuck in traffic or transferring these patients and they take time, those patients are going to have worse outcomes.
Gill is also concerned the new Surrey hospital, set to be built in Cloverdale, won't be enough. As of July, construction was set to start next summer, open in 2027 and have 168 beds. But Gill claims it won't have a pediatric emergency department or neonatal intensive care unit. The BC Liberals say Surrey needs something much bigger.
500-bed hospital on Fraser Highway and 176 on those huge tracts of land that are available, where you can then have access to the workers you will need on the future SkyTrain. Because the biggest challenge we have in healthcare today is not building buildings, it's getting the workers in those buildings.
Health Minister Adrian Dix, meanwhile, says they are preparing for a tough cold and flu season and may look at delaying surgeries, though they don't want to have to do that again. First Nations women and community leaders shared stories of police injustice, violence, and grassroots activism today ahead of tomorrow's International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women.
I am here because I see what happens on the ground in my Helsa community. And when it comes to gender-based violence, policing, and the lack of services. And I know we are not the only First Nation who struggles with this.
Speakers are calling for changes in policing rural Indigenous communities, increased respect to local leadership, and the role of media in reconciliation. Tomorrow also marks the start to an annual campaign, 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Well, you could say 'tis the season. Whistler Blackcomb, Canada's largest ski resort, is open today.
It was fantastic because the snow was pretty good, like powdering.
It was great. It was a little rocky up there, but like you go up there, plenty of snow. It was a good time.
Well, it was below average. Yeah.
Why?
Because there isn't a lot of snow.
The resort says nearly 100 hectares are ready for riding between both mountains, and as snow continues to fall, they plan to expand the terrain they're offering. The mountains have a snow base of 63 centimeters, with 18 falling in the past week. Another 10 to 15 is expected overnight.
You know, consumers just have shown that they're frugal, they're stingy this year.
You may have noticed bigger Black Friday deals than normal this year. What's driving the bargains when we come back? And hello to everyone following along in our commercial-free live stream. Good to have you here. There's a popular Newfoundland paper maker who says she has no plans to take on commercial paper giant Kruger or expand beyond working in her shed. But as the CBC's Troy Turner discovered, she is loving her artistic outlet and providing one-of-a-kind products.
It's a creative outlet that provides an escape from work at the bank, away from the spreadsheets and number crunching. And all it takes is a trip to her backyard shed.
I really wasn't expecting to love it to the degree that I do, but it's so flexible. You know, there's different days, I'm in different moods, and I kind of talk about as I start to make a batch of paper, what could go in it. Well, it depends on what I feel like putting in there today. So from that perspective, I think it's a great outlet for me.
Leslie Lundrigan has always been a lover of books. That, combined with living in a pulp and paper town, made her artistic choice an easy one.
I've been able to evolve the craft a little bit to be a bit more efficient and consistent in what I'm producing. But, I mean, I'm sure I'm influenced. This is where I live and I love to be, and you know, I can just make paper a little bit differently than they do.
The process involves breaking down existing paper products, creating a pulp, adding ingredients, molding, straining, and pressing, and drying, and then pressing again. Making a batch takes about 2 days.
Pretty much anything that I found, I made paper out of egg cartons or coffee cup trays, packing material, gift wrap, old books, coffee grounds. I've made Jell-O paper. Pretty much anything that pops in my brain, I am always wondering, can I turn that into paper? Let's give it a shot.
And what's the strangest request?
I did have somebody ask me to make some paper out of dirt, sandy dirt that they had from a special location. And so we were able to do it. It's not maybe something I would want to write a letter home on. What they're going to do with it from their perspective, I'm not sure what their purpose was. But we did make dirt paper, so that can be done.
Since there's no running water in her shed, Lundrigan will take a break when the temperatures drop next month.
This is just when I have time. I carve it out so that I could do something that makes me happy.
While Lundrigan jokes there just isn't enough time in the day to make the amount of paper that Corner Brook Pulp and Paper does, she says her schedule will change during the winter months, where she'll take the batches of paper already produced and turn them into things such as books or anything else inspired by her creativity. Troy Turner, CBC News, Corner Brook.
A BC Supreme Court judge in Kamloops has cancelled a marriage annulment after finding the woman who appeared to consent to the order was a, quote, imposter. The CBC's Jason Proctor spoke with her, Anita Bath, about the bizarre and complicated case of marital woe.
This couple, Warren Zant and Gina Zant, get married in 1999 in the Cook Islands. They split after about 20 years, and this separation agreement, and this is kind of key, is filed with the court. In which, they agree to split, and that Gina Zant will be entitled to survivor benefits under Warren Zant's operating engineer's pension plan. So that's after about 20 years. Last year, Warren Zant applies for an order from the court to annul the marriage. So that would make it like the marriage never happened. And that's based on a number of different documents, but it includes sort of a statement from Gina Zant that says, yeah, no, this marriage was a fraud. It never should have happened. Annul it. I'm happy with it. And two people who say they are Warren Zant and Gina Zant appear before this judge remotely by telephone and say, yes, this is okay. And so on the basis of that, this judge in Kamloops issues this marriage annulment. So things then kind of go along a little bit because the pension plan says to, this is going to mean the loss of thousands of dollars basically for Gina Zant. So they call her just to check, basically say, hey, so your marriage is annulled. This is the real Gina Zant, and she apparently is distraught. She says, this never happened. I never consented to this. I didn't know anything about it. And so that's kind of the first step in this slightly strange tale.
Strange for sure. Okay, so what happened after that? They went back to court?
Yeah, so the real Gina Zant now goes back to court along with Warren Zant and a pension plan lawyer, and they kind of basically take this whole thing apart. They look at the documents that were filed in support of this, which included some kind of a statement from somebody who appeared to be an official in the Cook Islands saying, yeah, this marriage was a fraud, apparently it was illegal. Well, an email is sent by, again, the real official in the Cook Islands to Gina Zant saying, yeah, I didn't send that email. I knew nothing about this. And that document itself is a fraud. So based on all of this, the judge looks at it and says, no, okay, the order I earlier gave annulling this marriage, I'm canceling that. Basically, I'm setting it aside. And so that includes also the order that would have seen Gina Zant, real or imposter, lose access to these survivor benefits on Warren Zant's operating engineer's pension plan.
Okay, so I got to ask, what is next for Warren Zant then?
Well, so this case is going to be back in court in January when, I guess Gina Zant and the pension plan lawyer can ask for damages. So, that could be punitive, actually. And I've been told that at one point the RCMP were looking into it. Certainly, bottom line on all of it, you do not want to lie to the court, and certainly you don't want to appear in court and say you're somebody who you're not. And bottom line, you really should probably be, careful about who you marry, because it's not quite as easy to undo it sometimes as you might think.
On the eve of one of the biggest shopping days of the year, you may have noticed retailers offering larger, better Black Friday deals, all in a bid to attract price-conscious consumers. But as Philippe de Montigny reports, many retailers are faced with a glut of inventory, leading them to chop prices dramatically.
Many shoppers are on the hunt for deals.
Thank you.
Feeling the pinch of inflation.
The price of everything is starting to add up quite a bit.
It's making it more of a concern, probably spending a bit less.
A new survey shows Canadians plan to spend on average just over $1,500 overall this holiday season. That's down 17% from last year.
The slowdown was, I think, a shot.
This clothing store in Toronto has already noticed a dip in sales earlier this fall.
Our customers who normally shop with us are still shopping. What I think we're losing a little bit is that casual shopper who maybe would have picked up something, but now they're being a little bit more cautious with their money.
The owner of this boutique, which rarely offers discounts, is making an exception this year. She'll put up some suits and sports coats at half price on Black Friday.
We do want to be aware of everybody's purchasing power as we head into Christmas.
It's the year of the discount. It really is, because you know, consumers just have shown that they're frugal. They're stingy this year.
After struggling for months with supply chain issues, many retailers face a new problem: excess inventory, warehouses piling high with merchandise.
The pendulum swung the entire way. It went from being out of stock to having too much stock in some circumstances, but that bodes well for consumers who are looking for discounts.
Whether it's searching for secondhand goods or crafting her own gifts, this new mother plans to dramatically cut back her expenses.
Less than I've ever spent, probably ever, in my whole life. I'm going to find really creative ways not to spend money this season.
As retailers gauge just how much Canadians plan to pull back on spending this holiday season, Black Friday and Cyber Monday will give them a better picture of what's to come. Philippe de Montigny, CBC News, Toronto.
Here's a live shot of the Port of Vancouver. We're tilting back to rain. And Johanna will have your BC-wide forecast after this.
It's after 6. This London drugstore has 17,000 square feet of retail space. According to the city bylaw, if a store has more than 2,400 square feet of retail space, I should only be allowed to buy drugstore-type things. Drugs, cigarettes, magazines, that sort of thing. Certainly not VCRs.
It sells for $548? That's right. Okay. And it's got infrared remote control.
There's no problem with me buying this tonight for any reason. I could
buy it. You could take it home tonight, yeah.
Your shopping hours, you're open till 10?
Yep.
And I can pay for it cash or with Visa and just buy it and walk away with it tonight? No problem? Okay. According to the bylaw, restricted goods are supposed to be screened off from the public, but they're not. Always can use some craft dinner, my staple. Groceries are on the restricted list. They shouldn't be sold in a big store like this at this hour. Do you ever close off this section of groceries after 6 o'clock? Never done that? Never. Hi. It's after 6 o'clock. Can I buy these groceries here?
Sure.
No problems?
That's fine.
Okay. You sure it's not against the law or anything?
No, it's not.
At this London drugstore, they're even selling produce. Panorama Orchards apples. 4 boxes of apples. 3? Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, oh, there's 4. How do you get 4 in there, Mother?
Do you shop at places like this often after 6 o'clock?
Sometimes, not all the time. Well, after 6 or weekend, yeah, because I work all day.
We tried to ask first London Drugs and then Shoppers Drug Mart why they break the law. No one would come on camera.
And I've just been told that there's no comment.
These so-called drugstores look more like supermarkets. Just ask Renato Infante. He owns and operates a super value store on Davie Street. Because his is a supermarket and not a drugstore, he has to close at 6 most nights.
We have drugstores in the neighborhood, which are the same size as my store, selling everything except for fresh produce and fresh meat. And I just don't feel that's right. And I feel that if they're able to stay open late at night selling these items, then I should be able to as well.
The city says it only enforces the law when someone complains. Infante says he'll be complaining. If convicted, operators of these drugstores face a maximum $2,000 fine and/or no more than 2 months in jail. Infante says he doesn't want the drugstores penalized so much as he wants the city to allow him to stay open late as well. He wants to know why groceries in his supermarket cannot be sold during the same hours as groceries are sold in this supermarket. Ted Chernecki, CBC News.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
CBC British Columbia's annual Food Bank Day returns on December 2nd. Join us for special broadcasts of your favorite CBC Radio 1 programs and fundraising for BC's food banks. And enjoy candlelit carols and joyous holiday favorites at Christmas with Corleone, December 16th to 19th. Celebrate the season and get your tickets at corleone.org.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Our BC-wide weather forecast now with meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe as we tilt back to something very familiar.
Yes, the tilting and the familiar.
I don't know why I added drums, but there you are.
I really liked it. I think we
not bad. Yeah,
we should have more of that. We should have more of that.
Oh no, I don't know if the control room wants that.
Yeah, the drum roll was needed because the rain is moving across the south coast as we speak. Take a look at where it's coming from, directly from the southwest, and that's why it was quite a mild day, hitting the double digits across the south coast. We've been seeing that rain move across the island all today, but it is just crossing the strait now, filling in as we speak. Steady rain through the overnight and through much of your Friday for Vancouver. Wanted to bring you back up the coast, though, because we are seeing some nocturnal lightning strikes, just to give you an idea of how strong this cold front is that's expected to sweep through the south coast over the next 24 hours. We still have that rainfall warning in place for inland coastal sections, as well as snowfall warnings for Highway 3 and the Trans-Canada, Rogers Pass, Eagles Pass. That's where we're looking at the snow to linger tonight. Okay, big picture. And you can see that rain moves through quite quickly, so we may even get some late day clearing tomorrow in Metro Vancouver, but look for 10 to 20 millimeters. And then the next system will move in for mid-morning Saturday. So we don't get much of a break between this storm and the next one. I call them storms, low pressure systems. Really only a 12-hour break, and that will line up Friday evening to Saturday morning. Behind it, much colder air, and I want to show you that in the long-range forecast. First of all, rainfall totals through to early next week. You can see the yellows and the reds. That's sort of the 40 to 60 millimeter mark with these back-to-back systems for Metro Vancouver. Higher elevations getting the higher amounts. So there's Friday and Saturday laid out wet. And a little gusty. We'll see gusts up to 50 kilometers per hour tomorrow in Vancouver. And then look at this. The transition will come Sunday, Monday. A lot of uncertainty in that snow forecast, but the models are starting to hone in on snow for Tuesday.
There it is.
Snow. There it is. And I will keep you posted, Dan. But looking more and more likely that we're going to get snow next week.
Okay.
It's happening.
Delightful.
Delightful.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Finally, an interior health program is helping people taking on breathing issues with harmonicas. The instrument is being used by a virtual program for people living with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. Respiratory therapists say playing the harmonica creates a workout for the old lungs. When patients blow into their blues harps, it builds up strength in those muscles used for breathing, like the diaphragm. And it sounds cool. That's your late news for Thursday. Thank you for joining us tonight. For news at any time, check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. And Michelle Gassoub will be your late host here tomorrow night at 11. I'll see you on Monday. Good night.